What's up, LEGO builders? Nearly every popular sci-fi world has its poster child dropship. You've got the Pelican, Republic gunship, and Thunderhawk, just to name a few. And ever since creating a custom world, I've wanted one of my own. Now, I do have this L.R.A.C dropship, however, it's quite lacking in a few areas. Namely, it packs about as much firepower as a Nubian pleasure yacht, and the back kind of looks like a space pig. So today, I'm giving this ship a full nose-to-tail upgrade. If you're hyped, don't forget to open fire on that like button, and let's get building.
The initial inspiration behind these upgrades started a couple weeks ago while I was building my latest heavy class mech. It's an anti-aircraft mech sporting two giant missile pods. After building said pods, I was attaching them to the head when I realized if I tilted them vertically, they looked just like thrusters for some kind of sci-fi-esque ship. This planted a seed in my mind for what the next generation of HADF aircraft could look like. Now I gotta build some prototype futuristic thrusters, and once I get a design I'm happy with, use it to replace these outdated blades on my long-range assault carrier or L.R.A.C dropship. I was able to achieve such a smooth design for the missile pods by using molded mudguards to form a perfect oval at the openings. I'm reusing that same technique here, but with much bigger 1x6 mudguards to create some larger thrusters capable of lifting big ships. These do have a much shallower curve, not extending as far as the 1x4 mudguards, however, so I'll need to find a way around that to still have a wide enough opening. Most sci-fi thrusters and external engines have a somewhat ovalish construction, so I'm lining the sides of this panel with slopes to capture a similar shape, making sure to add some dark green highlights because, you know, military vehicle. I also added a dark bluish gray shield tile to the front for a little extra detailing. In order to create a wider opening at the bottom where the mudguards sit, I created a stack of these weird modified bricks with studs on one side. I made sure to have studs facing in multiple directions because this is going to attach to the underside of the panel I just built, creating a connection point for the other half of the thruster. Speaking of that, it's going to look pretty similar to the first one with a mudguard at the bottom, but the top is going to house giant vents that'll be used to cool and feed the massive thrusters. I built the vents using a pattern of dark bluish gray 3x wedge plates intermixed with black 2x wedge plates to create a grille patterning you often see on big vents. I'm happy with how this is looking so far. The two panels connect via the strips of modified bricks, giving us our first look at the prototype thruster. It's big. Maybe even too big, but before we can find out, I need to build a little wing for it to connect to, that way the thrusters don't connect directly to the ship. Well, that was a good start, but right off the bat I realized I made the thruster too big. This ship is looking like one of those professional arm wrestlers who has one regular arm and one of those massive Popeye looking arms. The support wing is also so wide it prevents the door bay from opening, making it really hard to get in and out. I do like the overall design though, it just needs to be modified. Another thing that was kind of bugging me was how long and straight the thruster was. It looked more like something that would be on a large industrial mining or transport craft. So I'll keep that design in my back pocket, but for now I'm shortening it and adding some 2x2 wedge plates to the sides to widen the upper portion. I don't want the thrusters to appear skinny and undersized after the adjustments I make, and because I started so narrow, I have some room to grow in that direction. I like this tapered look provided by the small wedge plates much better and think it helps the thrusters look more interesting. The shorter and wider these thrusters are, the quicker they can rotate, helping the ship be more maneuverable. Now I need to redesign the brick-built sides to fit the new shape of the thruster. I started with one of those special bricks again, but stacked different slopes on top, trying to mirror the angles of the 2x wedge plates. It's always funny watching my own edited footage back because the build process looks so simple. It almost makes me forget the hours of failed designs and numerous times I smashed this build on the floor by accident, almost causing a nuclear-grade meltdown. I don't want to connect the thruster directly to the ship because A, that might look weird, and B, I still need to get the side doors open, using these round tiles with a stud in the center as a connection point between the thruster and wing. So the main thrusters and wings are built, but I still haven't figured out how they'll connect to the ship. I decided it would probably be easiest to try and use the same connection point that I used for the rotor blades and guard. It's a 3 stud by 3 stud large area, and once I removed the old rotor pieces, there was just enough space to firmly attach the wing. No intense modifying required. These V2 thrusters look so much better. They match the proportions of the rest of the ship and integrate with the body very well. There's no awkward seam or connection point that stands out. The doors can now open much better, and here's how much smaller the new design is compared to my original one. I'm well on my way to creating the ultimate dropship, but only 2 of the 4 thrusters are done, and I still need to do something about that lack of tail. I'm designing a smaller set of thrusters for the rear because the front ones provide most of the lift and these are more for stability and steering. Because of that, I've selected a smaller, less prominent mudguard for the opening of these mini thrusters. This 4x4 roof piece shaped the front of the build nicely, and I stuck some 1x4 headlight bricks on the sides so I could add tiles as some greebling for more texture and detail. The backside is even simpler, just a series of curved slopes connected to the second mudguard. The two sides are looking great, but they still have no way of connecting together. Luckily, I've had a lot of practice with these types types of builds recently, and I discovered stacking some rounded 1x2 plates together and sticking these pins in the holes of the plates allows you to connect 2 stacks of rounded plates together with studs facing out on both sides. I'm really happy I finally found a way to use all these different mudguards I had laying around. I bought them for various vehicles I was gonna build to populate my LEGO city, but quickly realized I had no interest in designing a bunch of random civilian cars and trucks. It's a good thing LEGO's such a versatile system. These rear thrusters connect to their respective wings in roughly the same way as the front ones, and now we are one step closer to the big reveal. With the propulsion upgrade complete, I need to turn my attention to this ship's biggest weakness: firepower. It has 2 spots for door-mounted machine guns, but those can only be used while the bay doors are open and have very limited range. I need this to be able to defend itself and subdue a hostile landing zone without the need for a large escort if need be. So I built 2 air-to-surface Stinger missile launchers that fit snugly against the sides of the cockpit. I feel like having a sci-fi dropship without a nose-mounted gun or two is like showing up to a 3rd-round job interview in a clown costume. It's just not right. I'm going with my standard LEGO camera for a machine gun base, but since it's nose-mounted, the bullet belt feeds directly in from the ship, so I don't need any bulky mags on the sides. I do love a nose gun, but the problem with this one is it sits so low on the ship it can't land without crushing the gun. So I built some wheels that can lower when landing to protect the gun. I'll admit, they look a little goofy, but in a heated conflict, the ship is most likely just hovering above the ground while troops unload, so these won't be needed every time. I guess I saved the most difficult for last because I don't really know what to do with this rear section. A lot of people said it had a long tail, and I agree, but what exactly does that look like? I built this rough frame out of inverted slopes, and it's already got a much sharper upward curve that should lead into a better point. I obviously don't want the sides to be looking this flat, so I'm adding headlight bricks to the top that'll hold a couple of angled panels. For those, I had no solid idea of what they needed to look like, so I just gathered every dark bluish gray curved slope and wedge plate I had and experimented around until I got something that looked good and somewhat matched to the curve of the tail. I also made sure to include those little tail fins from the original design because I think they look cool and will further stabilize the ship. This took the better part of a gloomy Wednesday, but at last I had something that looked more aerodynamic and less like the cake on a make-believe Star Wars creature. I assembled a new roof and replaced everything that had either fallen off or been removed during the build process, and now it's time to see if all this hard work paid off. Ever since the beginning of the war in Moenia Prime, HADF scientists and engineers have been working around the clock trying to unlock how the Protectorate forces have mastered bladeless propulsion on their Manta dropship. After months of research and some help from a recently rescued scientist, a prototype thruster was designed and successfully tested. While too bulky and heavy to put on a Wyvern gunship, these thrusters were the perfect upgrade to the aging L.R.A.C dropship, giving it more speed and agility on the battlefield and allowing it to maneuver in tighter spaces. Suddenly, the L.R.A.C has become one of the most advanced vehicles in the military, and in order to better protect this reinvigorated asset, the HADF outfitted it with a nose-mounted heavy machine gun and 6 air-to-ground missiles. And now it can fly into hot zones and lay down suppressive fire, or provide air support without the need for an escort. Only 3 have been shipped to Moenia Prime for in-field testing, with the majority being prepped for the HAEF in their upcoming missions. These upgrades exceeded my expectations. At best, I was hoping for a new propulsion system and some weapons, but in my opinion, the best upgrade was at the back. This ship has been bugging me ever since it was first built, and it was all because I just needed to add a proper tail. I think this definitely checks the boxes for a poster child sci-fi dropship, and I'm looking forward to many years of service from it. The added weapons will also make this more of a threat to certain classes of mech, potentially leading it to have a larger role in the battle for Moenia Prime. The next challenge will be making an L.R.A.C variant with the middle portion removed to carry small tanks, trucks, and supplies similar to the Republic dropship. That's a wrap for this video. Let me know what you think of the L.R.A.C in the comments, and until next time, happy building.